All right, I think we're going to get started. Welcome everyone to the Sonoma County VegFest 2025. Yay! All right, wonderful. Yeah, we're grateful to be doing it again this year. Please support all the amazing vendors. You know, everybody's having a really hard time recently, just financially and otherwise, the food vendors especially. So please give them your support, your dollars, and eat good food, because they came here to feed you well, feed you planet-friendly, animal-friendly food. So support them and support us as much as you can. You know, this venue is raising their prices come next year. So all prices goes up and expenses go up. So as much as you can help us, even beyond the ticket price, we appreciate it. Okay, so our first speaker, we're very excited for, Lia Wilbourn. She has been active in a wide range of animal rights activism, including street outreach, demonstrations, writings, social media, speeches, and art as activism. Lia is certified in plant-based nutrition through Cornell University. She currently is the Farmed Animal Campaigns Coordinator at In Defense of Animals, a position that I held actually forever ago, 15, 20 years ago. So it's kind of cool that she is carrying on that mantle in the same position that I was in. And she's a volunteer on our Humane Hoax Project team. The Humane Hoax Project is a project of Compassionate Living, which is my nonprofit, which is also the sponsor of this event. Compassionate Living this is a project of Compassionate Living, the Sonoma County VegFest. So anyway, thank you so much, Lia, for being here. Please welcome Lia Wilbourn.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for showing up. Okay, so first of all, show of hands. Let's see. How many people here care about animals and would never hurt an animal yourself? Fantastic. Okay, so pretty much most people say this and feel this way too. And most people eat animals and their milk and eggs. And when this contradiction comes up and it is mentioned that animals suffer in order for us to eat their bodies, their milk, their eggs, what most people think and say nowadays is, that's true, we need to treat them more humanely. That's why I try to buy humane animal products. So I'm going to get into where that mindset and narrative comes from and what it means when we accept it, and what it means for the animals and the planet and for us when we accept it without ever questioning it. Well, this is how it begins. We're conditioned from birth to believe that we need to eat animal products for protein, and that it's normal, natural, and necessary to consume animal products. And everyone around us is telling us this. So we learn to just kind of accept it and not question it. Like, for instance, about 12 years ago was the first time I ever asked myself the question, why is it that human beings are ingesting the breast milk of an entirely different species whose milk was made to turn a calf into a 1,500-pound cow? Is that really something that human beings should be ingesting? And if animals are killed in order for me to eat them, do they not suffer in that process? Surely my dog would, right? So also it's reinforced. We're programmed and marketed to associate animal products, and in this case dairy, with everything wholesome and good and family. And when a tension comes up, that tension within us, that discomfort between eating animals and their milk and eggs and our own wonderings and intuition about if the animals suffer or not, we come up upon cognitive dissonance. And because of societal pressure and just thinking that and feeling that what's most important is that I just go along with society and fit in. And so we repress our natural intuition in order to just go along to get along, unfortunately. And then the meat, dairy, and egg industries have come up with humane washing, which is marketing terms, phrases, words, and imagery to convince the public and deceive the public into thinking that animals are treated well in farms and slaughterhouses. And in general, consumers too, we want to feel better too, don't we? Because we don't want to have to think about and question what's really happening. And so, again, we live in a state of denial about it. The USDA is the primary agency in charge of supposedly overseeing animal agribusiness, but at the same time in charge of promoting it. And then they also help to subsidize it, but with our tax dollars. So the other thing about this is even the Animal Welfare Act, which is a federal law, farmed animals are excluded from the Animal Welfare Act. Because why? They are seen as property, commodities, units of production. So they have no legal rights. So when it comes to inspections and enforcement, there is no incentive really to inspect because these industries are so supported by the USDA and government. And 800 times more of our taxpayer dollars are going towards animal agribusiness than towards plant-based, animal-free food. And when profit is the #1 priority, you can bet that animals and their well-being do not come first. So cruelty and suffering is inevitable. If you say something long enough, people will start to believe it. So just some examples. Humane, small, local, family farm, regenerative, pasture raised. What are some other ones? Can anyone think of other terms that, cage-free? Yep. Sustainable, yes, that's like a greenwashing term. That sounds so nice, doesn't it? Eco-friendly, that's another greenwashing term. Meaningless means absolutely nothing because there's no legal definition. Okay, so free range, all that means, or is supposedly required, is that animals have access to the outdoors, not that they actually are outdoors. It doesn't specify how much time they should spend outdoors or how much space they should have. So one big industrial shed crammed full of thousands of animals can qualify for free range as long as there's a little opening somewhere where some of the animals might be able to get out into a little enclosure. Cage-free, one big cage, basically. Now, we have to think about, okay, they're not in tiny cages, but they're piled on top of each other, never seeing the sun. That qualifies as cage-free. And grass-fed, the USDA got rid of their standards, supposed standards in 2016, citing it's not mandatory or enforceable even. So organic has also nothing to do with treatment. It sounds nice though, doesn't it? That's more to do with their feed, but has nothing to do with how they're treated. And then wild caught is another humane washing term that makes us feel better about buying fishes and aquatic animals. And just like all sentient beings, fishes and all marine animals suffer too. They feel pain, especially when they are stabbed and suffocated and impaled. So this can qualify for cage-free. Yeah. Chickens who are raised for their meat are bred now to grow as fast as possible so they can be killed as fast as possible. So then they get osteoporosis, arthritis. Their little bodies are suffering their entire short lives. Animals raised for meat are killed at around 6 weeks old. They can live to be around 10 years old, naturally. Mother hens, cage-free, is usually on egg cartons. They are killed at around 1.5 years old. They can also live to be around 10 years old. And just like chickens raised for meat, they are bred to lay as many eggs as possible. Imagine what this is doing to their bodies. So in the wild and in natural settings, they would lay about 12 to 15 eggs per year. But now they're laying about 300 eggs per year. So they are suffering their entire lives. Now, factory farms is usually the thing that even advocates are saying, let's focus on factory farms. It's factory farms that are bad, but pretty much everyone will agree with us on that. Even animal agribusiness says, oh yes, we're not factory farms, we're a family farm. And they can say it, because family means nothing, there's no legal definition. So if advocates are saying stop factory farming, which of course we must, without educating about what really goes on in all animal farming and talking about the exploitation and the killing, the underlying cause that there's so much suffering, the underlying reason factory farms exist in the first place, what is the impression that this leaves with the public? I'm going to look for labels that make me feel better, like humane. So they also say in general, and this is the consensus that we all think is true, it is true that factory farms are terrible for the environment. However, what's talked about as the great alternative is grass-fed and regenerative and pasture-raised. 18% of calories and 37% of protein is all that we're getting when the meat and dairy industry already takes up 83% of our agricultural land. So if everyone were to switch to grass-fed, we don't have enough arable land on the planet for this, and we would need 30% more animals. 43% more methane would be emitted. Methane is a greenhouse gas that is up to 80 times more dangerous and potent than CO2 gas, which is the central greenhouse gas that caused by fossil fuels and the oil industry. So regenerative ranching, if we switch to that, we'd need 2.5 times more land that we do not have. The leading consensus now among environmental experts is that animal agribusiness is the leading cause of deforestation, habitat loss, species extinction, water depletion, and the latest studies, Oxford, Stanford, and UC Berkeley have stated that phasing out animal agribusiness represents our best and most immediate chance at reversing the climate crisis. And World Preservation Foundation and climate healers have just come out recently in the last few years stating it is the #1 cause of climate change. And then we hear about, of course, well, what about certifications? These are third-party groups. It's more conflict of interest because they are charging fees to give out these certifications. We cannot trust these labels. And that certification equals more marketing and more people buying the products for the producers that have these certifications. So the thing about certified humane, if you're buying an animal product, there's no way that it's humane, because the standard practices in all animal farming is legalized cruelty. That is an individual that they don't want us to get to know and know about, who is suffering behind the closed doors. These are just some of the standard practices, no matter the size of the farm. Sexual violation of males and females. Males are actually manually masturbated in the dairy industry. They use electro-ejaculators. All the females are forcibly impregnated, and all the babies are taken from their mothers. Mutilations without painkillers. Now let's stop and think for a moment if we were doing this to a dog. Cutting off their tails, their testicles, their beaks, burning off their horns. That's called disbudding. What a nice sounding word. Yeah? Male calves and male chicks in the dairy and egg industries are all killed. Why? Because they don't produce eggs and they don't produce milk. They are considered useless. And most animals are killed as infants. This is little baby piglets getting their teeth and tails cut off. I think this slide went back, yeah. And many animals are conscious while they're slaughtered. We are told that they are stunned. Stunning is really just to immobilize them. There is no way that on a slaughter line, when you have to kill a certain amount of animals per hour, they are going to stop the slaughter line because an animal is conscious. No, I've seen the footage myself, hours and hours in slaughterhouses. Mother dairy cows in the dairy industry. Forcibly impregnated, they carry their babies for 9 months. their babies are taken from them. They mourn and bellow and fight for their babies. And all the male calves in the dairy industry are killed because they're useless. So that's just one of the mutilations happening. I know that this is working. There we go. Okay, disbudding. That's little baby goat after having their horn buds. Yeah, treated like garbage. On the right, that's the egg industry. Those are male baby chicks going into what is known as a macerator, a giant blender, alive. We treat them like garbage. Gas chambers for pigs, the #1 most popular way that pigs are killed. We are told that it's humane slaughter. I've seen this footage too. They never show the footage inside these places, right? The pigs scream and thrash and fight for their lives to get out. The CO2 gas burns their mucous membranes. It is a horrific, terrifying way, painful way to die, as all of these methods are. Pigs have been shown to be more intelligent than a 3-year-old human child. And this is what we're doing to them. Imagine if we were doing this to dogs again, and they're killed at 6 months old. And it's all unnecessary. What are we doing, right? When the largest nutrition organizations in the world, a balanced plant-based diet is healthy for all stages of life. So the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is pretty much the largest organization in the world. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, many other nutrition organizations in Europe, Canada, Australia have stated the same thing. Can help to prevent the top human diseases while animal products increase those risks for heart disease, some cancers, diabetes, and other ailments. Whoa, sorry everyone. This little system's kind of not working properly. Okay, here we go. Thanks for bearing with me. There's no humane way to use or kill someone who doesn't want to be used or killed. So a doggy, we see them as a someone because they're part of our family. We love them, we bond with them, we spend time with them. But a piglet is a something? No, they're a someone. So speciesism is another form of oppression, domination, and entitlement, as other forms of oppression throughout history, right? Based on the ideas that if we have more power, and we are just choosing certain groups, they're different, we have more power over them, we have the right to use them as we please. It's a human supremacy mindset. Now, of course, we all have differences, right? I'm a different skin color, you're a different skin color, you come from a different place, we were all born into different bodies. But our differences are not morally relevant to how we should be treated. For all non-human animals and human animals, if you stab me, it will hurt. And if you enslave me and oppress me, I will suffer. And these are the individuals. There's a human, just like a human, there is a little person in there. And we all know that when we've spent time with any animal. They bond with their families. They have complex emotional lives. They all have intelligence. And they grieve and mourn when their babies are taken from them. They are not ours to use. Their lives matter, most importantly, to them. So their bodies are not ours to use. Their milk, their eggs are not ours to use. 90 billion land animals and 2.7 trillion marine animals are killed every year just for food products. All unnecessary that we are better off without. It is the largest, most widespread, longest running, and most ignored atrocity in all of history. So veganism the definition is quite simple. The principle that humans should live without exploiting other animals. So a vegan is someone who rejects the exploitation of animals. It is pro-peace, pro-freedom for all of us. And it's not a diet. There's a big misconception. I mean, plant-based is a diet. It's focused on our health, and that's a wonderful way to eat. If we all ate whole food plant-based, that would be wonderful. But it's really a justice movement because it does, plant-based doesn't address all the other ways that animals are exploited and tortured and killed, like for entertainment, fashion, their wool, their skins for leather, name some of the other things, supplements, transportation, labor, and in labs. 100 million animals right now being tortured and hidden away in labs. Now, when it's beagles, which they're still doing to this day, outrage, right? What about all the other animals who are experiencing the same thing? And then we hear about better welfare. Now, of course, we do need to fight for better welfare, but we have to be very careful about this because when we start speaking in these terms, like just tell people, encourage them to do meatless Mondays. Would we speak about any other injustice in this way? Would we say, well, it's okay to be a little bit racist, try not to be racist most of the time, try to only abuse children a few times a week? It sounds insane, right? So we have to speak about it in the same way. And it's just about liberation from enslavement and oppression. That's really what it comes down to, and that's how we should be speaking about it and defending animals. So think of some of the great civil rights and social justice leaders. All of these folks are vegan. Now, Mahatma Gandhi in his time, vegan wasn't even really a word, but he wrote a book on vegetarianism. Coretta Scott King, Martin Luther King's wife, widow, and their son Dexter Scott King are vegan, and they have said that if Martin had lived, he would have been vegan too, because even when he was alive, he was speaking about the connection between the oppression of humans and the oppression of animals. Cesar Chavez, labor leader for farm workers, said, "We cannot hope to have peace until we respect all beings. And we cannot defend or be kind to animals until we stop exploiting them." And we get to talk about all the incredible, wonderful ways, the joys and pleasures of being vegan. So with an animal-free diet, we could feed up to 4 billion plus humans. We could help to solve world hunger if we only use that land that we are using to grow crops, to feed to the animals that we eat, and for animals to graze on. This can help solve world hunger. What are we doing, right? We can restore forests, conserve so much water, trillions of gallons per year. 60% of animal species have been wiped out since 1970, mostly wild animals, due to animal ag and the fishing industry. Lower disease and healthcare costs, minimize pandemic threat, of course. The bird flu crisis is taking over. It is rampant across the United States. Dairy cows are dying from it. And last year, the former CDC director said that a pandemic from bird flu is inevitable. So when we're buying eggs, this is what we're paying into the system. No more slaughterhouses, that's what this would mean. Now, would anyone here want someone that they care about to work in a slaughterhouse? So why are we paying people and getting the most vulnerable and desperate human beings to work in slaughterhouses? They have some of the highest rates of suicide, alcoholism, drug abuse, domestic violence. Of course they do, right? Imagine stabbing terrified animals all day long who are just as vulnerable in some ways as you are, right? So talk about entitlement and privilege. So we are advocating for peace and justice for all beings, not just animals. Why does one hurt others knowing what it is to be hurt? When we are raised and taught as children that it is okay to ignore the suffering of other beings and take part in it, what is that doing to us? And is it any wonder that throughout history, humans have done the same to other humans? Animals remind us of our own innocence and vulnerability. And it is painful to acknowledge that our choices are causing and inflicting horrific cruelty, so most turn away and stay quiet to fit in. But when we repress what we know is true, like it is wrong to hurt animals when we don't have to. We're going against our own intuition, our hearts, and we are chipping away at our own self-respect. And how is that affecting us in other areas of our lives too? So we hurt them, we hurt ourselves. It's up to us to normalize veganism, to shift the narrative, because what is happening on the screen, he is out there just simply showing the truth to the public. That is what's extreme. Speaking up, telling the truth, and showing the truth is not. So this is how we advocate. If this was happening to you or someone that you care about, how urgently would you want it to end? Raise your hand if you'd want it to end immediately. So that's how we advocate. Okay, must watch. This is just some, but if I had to pick, dairy is scary. It's only 5 minutes, and it's on YouTube right now. I highly recommend, yes, take photos of this. If any of you haven't seen some of these incredible life-changing films, Dominion and Earthlings are both free on YouTube. They are award-winning documentaries that show the truth about what really happens in all industries that exploit animals. And then Cowspiracy and Eating Our Way to Extinction, transformative, beautifully moving films. They're not graphic, but it talks about the environmental effects of animal agribusiness. And then we have The Game Changers, so entertaining and inspiring. That's about plant-based athletes and firefighters, football players, and how a plant-based diet is actually helping them with their gains and is even better for them as athletes. It's incredibly entertaining and inspiring. And then Christspiracy, very profound, goes into the ethics and the spiritual aspects of veganism. These are some of the beautiful individuals I've met, and these are some of the humans. They're in San Francisco Vegan Society. This was just a few weeks ago, that photo, at World Day for the End of Speciesism. Yeah, I highly recommend everyone get in touch with them too. They're doing events around the Bay Area, not just socials, but they do activism as well. And just remember that this is a grassroots movement and that it really only takes a small group of sustained engagement by people, 3 to 10% of the population, as these studies have been done on the successful justice movements that really had lasting change. That's really all you need to push a movement past its tipping point. And so we just have to remember, a lot of you know this quote, but never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Okay, so one final thing. Yeah, one last thing. Thanks, everyone. I just have this last thing I want to make a point about is that being vegan really is the baseline. It's the least that we can do. The animals need us to speak up for them and to be their voice and to centralize them in our advocacy. To think about this from the victim's perspective, not just from our perspective and how it could benefit us. So when we reject the status quo of violence and subjugation, it's hard. Yes, when all of society is going along with it, it's challenging, it's uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me, believe me, but most people don't change in their comfort zones. I didn't change in my comfort zone. I didn't change until I actually came across the truth, the footage for myself. I happened upon it on YouTube, and if it hadn't been for those advocates who were willing to risk me being uncomfortable, I wouldn't be standing here today. So we also need support, though, of course, because I felt very alone when I first went vegan, and I wanted to speak up, but I didn't know any other vegans, much less activists. So you just follow those who inspire you, and things start to come of that. Beautiful things can happen. You never know. And we can all use our different talents and our different skills to speak up and advocate. You can even start on social media an anonymous social media account. Use your art, your creativity. Volunteer at farmed animal sanctuaries. There are some incredible ones represented here today in the Bay Area. Look up farmed animal sanctuaries in the Bay Area and you'll find them. And take photos and videos of the animals, the precious individuals, and share this with the world. Most people don't know what I've shared with you today, right? So if we don't share this with others, how are people going to know this? And most people care about animals, and we just get them to align the principles they already have with their actions. So from this day forward, just think about and root how your actions will support your own principles, and how we speak, have that rooted in justice, compassion, and liberation, not just for some, but for all. Okay, thank you. Questions? Okay, yes. Do I have all this in a book? Yes. Oh, gosh. Do I? No, I don't personally. But let's see. Some books, well, Animal Liberation was a huge one that came out. That's Peter Singer. However, there's some newer ones now that I'd recommend just as much, if not more, including the Humane Hoax, authored by Hope Bohannic over here, the organizer of this wonderful festival. Yeah, so I would highly recommend that, and it's kind of an anthology of all kinds of other incredible activists speaking on these issues. So thank you for asking that. Yes, get it at the Compassionate Living table. Yes. That's a really great question, and that is my bad because, Linda Bell, thank you. In fact, I meant to ask and put that on the screen. So thank you for bringing that up. Linda Bell. Yes, a beautiful artist. Yes, hi, yes. But to address that, though, it is true, though, that prisoners are used also in slaughterhouses on furlough. So what are we doing? Prisoners that are supposed to be getting some rehabilitation, we send them into slaughterhouses, then we send them out into society. How can this be good? Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, okay. Guess we have to end. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Thanks, dear.